All three of these videos are taken with a 50mm lens. One of these is taken with the Sony A7S3, which costs nearly $5,000. Another is done using the entry-level Sony A7C, which is priced at $2,500. The remaining one, well, it's done with the newest Sony A7 IV, which costs somewhere in the middle, at around $3,600. All three of them are Sony's latest range of full-frame video-specific cameras. These are another three videos taken with the same three cameras. So, which do you prefer now? Now, another three videos. Which of them do you like best? Maybe more importantly, can you tell them apart? Hey, it's Differenter Colin. Let's have our Sony full-frame camera shootout with the A7S3 versus the A7 IV versus the A7C. What's up guys, Differenter Colin from Learns here. Now you might have watched some of our videos before and think, wow, these must be taken with some expensive cameras. While our cameras aren't exactly the most expensive like what many other YouTubers have been using, some of our cameras aren't considered that cheap either. Now like this A7S3 here from Sony, the body here alone is $4,899. That's not inclusive of the caged and any lens. The Sony A7 IV here is slightly more affordable at $3,599, but it's not really considered that cheap either. But this little one here, the Sony A7C, could seriously be considered by many people to be their video camera, because at $2,499 and being a full-frame camera, it's really a worthwhile buy. But surely the $5,000 A7S3 and these A7C, which cost less than half the price, would produce totally different image quality, isn't it? Well, this video is where we are going to find out. We will be pitting these cameras along with the A7 IV in a shootout that compares among their video quality, their functions and ease of use. And specifically, these are the parameters that we will be measuring them against. As you can see, we are not going into every nitty-gritty function of the cameras here. Doing so means that this video will probably be 2 hours long, because Sony cameras, maybe any modern day mirrorless cameras, are pretty capable nowadays. But the parameters that we picked to compare against are meant to be for everyday use, for either taking videos of yourself or for your clients. Oh, one last thing, if you haven't figured out by now, we are only comparing the video functions of these cameras, alright? So, are you ready? Let's go. Now the first set of comparisons is for the video quality. For this, we will be comparing the resolution, the maximum frame rate, autofocus, low light and crop factor of these three cameras. Now first off, the A7C is a 24 megapixel camera. The A7 IV has 33 megapixels, and so the A7S3, being the most costly, should have the most megapixels, isn't it? Well, it only has 12 megapixels, half that of the cheapest A7C, and lower than most smartphone cameras out there. Why is that? Well, I'll explain this later. So with more megapixels, does that make the video look better? Well, let's see. This is taken with the A7C paired with a Sigma 50mm lens at 4K resolution. And this is done with the A7 IV with the same lens at 4K also. And this is with the A7S3. Now, can you spot any difference? Let's zoom in real close to see the pixels. Notice any difference now? Now, only with pixel peeping can we see some differences. But really, when most people are watching videos on a phone nowadays, we can barely tell the difference among the three cameras when it comes to a resolution comparison. Let's move on to the second comparison, the maximum frame rates. Now the A7C can shoot at a maximum of 60 FPS, but only at 1080p resolution. It can theoretically go up to 120 FPS on 1080p, but it is only capable on Sony S&Q mode, which doesn't record audio. And when you go into 4K, right, the maximum frame rate drops to only 30. The A74, on the other hand, can record at 4K 60, something which the A7C cannot. But it comes at a cost, which we will talk about it a little bit later. Okay? It can also take 120 FPS, but again on S&Q mode that doesn't record audio. So if it's a B-roll that you are taking, I think that's still okay. Now the A7S3, being the most capable of the trio here, it can do 4K 60 and even 4K 120 in its native video mode, unlike these other two. And in S&Q mode, it can even do up to 240 FPS for the ultra slow-mo effect. Now let's compare the maximum resolution among the three cameras side by side. Next up, we pit the three cameras against each other in an autofocus test. These are the results. Now as you can see, all three cameras are very capable in grabbing eye autofocus or IAF on the eyes and the face. They are pretty sticky even when the subject is moving rather vigorously. However, when a mask is worn, the results kind of vary. So in conclusion, Sony's autofocus is legendary. For my company, we switched from Nikon to Sony. Yes, we bravely used Nikon cameras in the past for our videos, even for our clients. The reason we switched is primarily because of Sony's autofocus capability. Now onto the low light comparison. These shots are all taken in a setting with no studio lights. Now we would never do client work this way, but it's just for testing the low light capabilities of the three cameras. With our aperture set at f1.0 and the shutter speed at 1/60, our ISO has to be cranked up all the way to 16,000 to compensate for the lack of lighting. So here are the results. And when we go pixel peeping once more, the results are like so. Now clearly, the A7S3 trumps the competition here. While the A74's and the A7C's image can be seen, we clearly cannot use them for client work. Now, why is the A7S3 so capable in low light settings? The answer is because of its low megapixel count. Now remember, I mentioned that the A7S3 has only got 12 megapixels. That's where it shines, no pun intended. You see, all full-frame cameras have the same size full-frame sensors. So when we squeeze in like 24 megapixels or 24 million pixels into a sensor of this size versus placing just 12 million pixels, which sensor will have bigger pixels? And so each of the A7S3's pixel on the sensor, we have twice the size of the A7C and nearly 3 times of that on the A74. And the bigger the pixel, the better it captures light. Hence, that's why the A7S3 is the best consumer-grade video camera there is for videographers. In fact, the S in A7S3 stands for sensitivity, as in light sensitivity. Okay, on to the last test for the video quality, and that's the crop factor. Now, what is this, you might ask? After all, these are all like full-frame cameras with no crops, isn't it? Yes, but when we shoot in 4K, something happens. Now, this is what a 4K 60 footage looks like on the A7S3 with the Sigma 50mm lens. And this is from the A74. Wait a minute, did we place the A74 closer to the subject or use a different lens here? Well, we didn't. Both are placed at the same position and using the same 50mm lens. The A74's footage is cropped because it's how it is. Shooting in 4K 60 will result in a 1.5 times crop, essentially making your camera into an APS-C camera. Now, is this a deal breaker for you? You decide. But wait, where's the A7C? Okay, here are the side-by-side comparison among the 3 cameras shooting at 4K 60. Okay, so the A7C cannot even do 4K 60, at least not on the native video mode. So what do you think of the differences in the video quality among the three cameras? It's pretty obvious that the most expensive camera produces the best in terms of video quality, isn't it? But is it twice as much as the A7Cs? Next, we compare specific functions among the three cameras. Again, these will not be an exhaustive test, so we'll only be touching on these three functions: steady shot, APS-C mode, and smooth skin. First up, steady shot. Now, all three of these cameras have some form of in-body image stabilization, or IBIS. This reduces the shakes and vibrations somewhat, especially from a handheld shot, like so. But the A7S3 goes one up with something called an active steady shot, which adds real-time digital stabilization, somewhat like what the GoPro or iPhone does, but not nearly as good. So this is how the active steady shot looks like as compared to the standard steady shots. But even if you don't have active steady shots, Sony has something rather incredible to help stabilize your shots. And that's done during post-production with an app called Catalyst Browse. It's free and it's really good actually. Just compare these Catalyst Browse footages with the standard steady shot ones and those without stabilization. Now, another useful mode that these full-frame Sony cameras have is the APS-C mode. Now, this is a normal 50mm shot, and this is the same shot with APS-C mode switched on. So now you have a 1.5x zoom applied to your shot, and this doesn't really sacrifice video quality unlike digital zoom, because APS-C mode utilizes the same number of pixels as needed for 4K or 1080p, while a digital zoom crops out effective pixels and then enlarges them. Now, the last function I'll be showing you here is more or less a gimmick in my opinion, but it comes in useful for some of our client work. It's called the smooth skin mode, and this is what it does when switched on. Notice how good my skin looks now? Well, it's not unlike those beauty filters available on smartphones. While it can be useful for some, shooting with this mode on effectively eliminates any means of reversing the effect, which in the first place can be applied in post anyway. Note that the smooth skin mode only applies for the A74. The A7S3 and the A7C don't have this. Now, lastly, let's talk about the camera's form factor, grip and weight. The A7S3 and the A74 have virtually the same form factor. They look the same and feel the same. In fact, both weigh around the same. Both have the same grip and feel rather good when held. Now, the A7C looks like a compact camera, and well, this is Sony's intent, as the C in A7C stands for compact. It's much lighter than the other two also, but with the reduction in size comes with a trade-off primarily in two areas: the viewfinder and the grip. Now, the viewfinder is usable but not nearly as good as the ones in the other two cameras here. And being a compact camera, grip is also not as good. But as you can see here, after we have added this cage, I think the grip is now much better. So let's sum up the comparison of these three Sony full-frame video-centric cameras. Now, obviously the A7S3 is the most capable camera here, with it being capable of shooting 4K 120 and also 4K 60 without any crop like in the A74. The A7C can't even shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. The A7S3 is also the most capable under low light settings. Now, the A7S3 also have an additional active steady shot mode that the other two don't. But well, all have at least the standard steady shot and Catalyst Browse, the app, that can stabilize the shots in post anyway. All three of them have APS-C mode, which can be useful when you need to zoom in without affecting video quality. But the A7 IV has a party trick here for some people who wants flawless looking skin hard-coded into their footages. And lastly, the A7C is the most compact and light, but it trades off in terms of the grip. So which camera here is for you? Okay, let's talk about the most affordable one here first, the A7C. Now at $2,500, it's really value for money for what it can do. If you are taking mostly talking headshots with some simple B-rolls, the A7C is really more than capable, but don't expect to do more cinematic looking 4K 60 shots because it just cannot. And because the viewfinder is quite crappy, right? Don't expect to shoot using it too, which anyway, most video makers won't do it. Photo-wise, of course, the A7C can do pictures, but again, the viewfinder makes it rather difficult to take photo with. Now, on the other end of the scale, you have the A7S3, which costs nearly $5,000. It's really a beast of a video camera for everything from talking head videos to moving B-rolls to night shots without lighting to slow-mo footages. Now for us, we have even shot cinematic videos with it that almost no one can tell that it wasn't shot with a $20,000 film quality camera. So this is the best choice if you can invest like $5,000 in a camera body. But how about photos? Well, of course, this camera can take pretty good photos, but at only 12 megapixels, this is actually the most major downfall. Most professional photographers won't be satisfied with only 12 megapixels. But you know, for most personal use, this is actually more than sufficient. I mean, do you even know that your iPhone is also 12 megapixels? Anyway, onto the last camera, the A7 IV. Now it's like the in-between choice if you find the A7C too consumer grade and you don't like its form factor and you don't want to spend like $5,000 on a body on the A7S3. And it looks and feels almost 95% like the A7S3, and well, it costs $1,500 less. Functionally, I think it has like 90% of what the A7S3 has, and for most videographers, right, this is more than sufficient. The videos that the A7 IV can take, they look great. And if you can live with the cropped 4K 60 footages, everything else compares favorably to the more expensive A7S3. And as a bonus, right, this camera has 33 megapixels. So for most photographers, this is an excellent photo camera too. In fact, this is my hybrid camera choice too. So there you have it, the shootout among Sony's latest full-frame video cameras. Now of course, there are other Sony models like the A1 and FX3, but we are focusing more on the consumer grades here. Now, these three models are meant more for like solo wedding videographers or the small production studio. And true, we didn't cover everything that these three cameras can do, and really there are tons more features that these cameras have. But this video isn't meant to be exhaustive in the first place. In any case, I hope that you have gotten value from this video. If so, do consider to give it a like and subscribing to our channel if you haven't. Make sure to turn on notifications too. That way, you won't miss out on the other videos that we have lined up for you in this season of Learn's Media and Tech Show. Okay, it's been a very long video. Until the next one, I'm Differenter Colin. Why be different when you can be differenter? I'll see you soon.